What's up, guys? It's Bean from Beanie Games here, coming at you right after YCS Las Vegas. What an event. Let's talk about players reading their opponent's card, putting it right back down in the Anima Zone so you can take it, activating talents without monster effects, and people aren't allowed to swear? Like, come on, Konami. Listen, maybe I should just go over the events after they happen and make that a segment on my channel. Definitely let me know in the comments below. Maybe we can make that happen and then we can talk about what went well at these events and stuff. But for now, we're just gonna get right into this video. So if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button. You'll get entered into this wonderful V8 Year of the Rabbit Spellground. Like I said in my previous videos, not the best fabric, but hey, listen, Spellground, I believe in you guys. I promise that one day these guys will go back to their old fabrics, but that's besides the point. It's free Spellground. So let's get right into the video here. We have a hand trap tier list. So overall right now, we're just going to go over what I feel like is going good in the meta as hand traps, what I've seen it getting played on the live stream at Vegas, what I've seen, what I think would work, and we're just going to break it down a little bit piece by piece and just practically go from there. So let's just hop right into this. So Ash Blossom. Okay, first of all, let's talk about this one. This is the feat one. This is clearly the best Ash Blossom. This is the only one that resolves. The QCRs, they never resolve. Only the feat one. So get on board with that. Second off, I'd have to put, I think it's a must-have. You have a lot of voiceless running Branded right now. You have Branded running around a little bit right now. It can somewhat hit Flu. I think it's just overall that good rounded card that's just frankly never going to leave the format, unfortunately, as much. And then you also have your Labyrinth. So overall it has good cover across all the matches. But also, you don't want to get punished by a Hida. I mean, I've seen it happen time after time where, you ash your opponent, they go straight into the Hida. They take your Ash and they continue playing off your cards, and you just get huge punished. And at that point, maybe you should have reconsidered putting this in. But still, I think this format is very fire dominated. I mean, statistics show it's fire dominated right now. Either you're playing Pier, you're playing Fire King. I'd say there's still, it's hard to say because you have Costa Rica where Pier takes the cake, and then you have YCS Vegas where the Fire King takes the cake. So I still think there's no clear winner. There might be after the ban list because sooner or later this deck is going to get touched by the ban list. So, but for now, we're in a fire heavy format, so let's just get used to it. But I feel like Ash Blossom is a must because it just has so much cover across the boards. And let's get into the next one. Typhoon. Technically a hand trap. I think this is very, I'll put situational. I think it's situational because they have to have two face-up spell and traps. So if you're going against a Fire King player or Pure Snake Eyes, they'll usually end on Temple and a Fire King in the back row, or Sanctuary and Fire King Island, and then you just kind of punish them. But outside that, there's not much I can really think of. I mean, you could use it against Voiceless Voice, but you're planning on them flipping that trap, like shotgunning that trap, which I think most of the time they do. Don't quote me on that. I haven't had much practice against that deck. But outside that, I don't see any other decks that are really like putting up two spell and traps. But you definitely will catch a Fire King player off guard with this card. I saw Chansey off Squiddy's channel. He was running it when he was in top 16. I saw him side into it, and I think it went pretty hard for him. I can't really remember there. But overall, I do, and just a quick disclaimer, I do think we are in a hand trap format. I don't think any good board breaker by itself just kind of wins this format. Maybe if you pair up a couple of them together, even then it's still kind of rough. I feel like you can't even just have one hand trap do the job unless it's welly timed. So I think you at least need two hand traps, and I think that's why a lot of builds are going like, compared to like around 10 to 12 hand traps from the couple formats ago to a minimum of 14 to 15. And most of the decks are fire. It is somewhat of a tier 0 format. It's not as oppressive as tier element format, but we're still in that, there's clearly a dominant deck in the room, and you're either on best deck in the room to show results, or you're hard countering it, which we'll talk about one of these hand traps on here in a minute. But let's get on to the next one. Bystials. So I have Magnamut here. Solid side deck. Definitely a solid side deck option. So this can hit Voiceless. You can hit the low. You can hit the Linkuriboh. It helps you link climb. It's just another body. And so Magnamut and Drewsworm, preferably Drewsworm. You want to clear cards off, send them to the graveyard without destroying them. If they get rid of your Drewsworm, with like a Princess Pop, now you get to send something on their field and has a lot of disruption. But overall, you're taking Linkuriboh out, you're taking the Voiceless cards out. I guess it's not very good into Flu, unless they drop down a Shifter, but that's so niche, that's very situational. But overall, I could see this in the side deck. I think a lot of PAX team had that in their side deck at YCS Vegas, and it was very smart. So overall, it was good. Winter Cherries. You're better off swearing on live stream and getting a game loss than playing this card. There's just no good card to take out. You could attempt to take out Princess, but they're still going to link climb on you. A lot of builds towards the top cut of Vegas, they were playing the Slean package with access code, so not taking one card out. Maybe you could hit the Linkuriboh, but even then, does that feel good? Does it feel like you took home the cake? Does it feel like you cut the cheese? Does it feel like you were just... It just doesn't feel overly good. And then you're playing into talents. You're playing into a lot of stuff. So overall, I think you're better off attempting to swear on stream and get away with it without the game loss. So definitely better off swearing. DD Crow. Where would I put DD Crow? I'd have to say decent side deck, maybe situational, but I'm gonna put in side deck because this card alone shuts down Voiceless. One of their main play, especially on the Diviner play. They'll Diviner, send, I think Trias it is. I haven't had much practice against Voiceless, so please bear with me on that one. And then they go to Tribute the Diviner, and then if you chain Crow hitting Diviner, the Diviner's gonna miss timing. The Diviner misses timing, they wasted their normal summon, and they're just going to pass on that unless they hard drew like a low with the Ritual Spell and Skull Guardian, but at that point, they probably just would have summoned the low in the first place. Even then, Crow, you could still hit the Crow out of the graveyard and go from there. Crow also has some crossover with some of the fire decks. You can hit the Princess, you could hit an Amble Whale in there, you could hit the Fire King stuff. So it is decent. I do think it's low impact. Like I said, a lot of these hand traps you're going to have to pair. I think a lot are very, very low impact hand traps. We'll get to a couple that aren't, but even then, you still have to pair them and go from there. It's very hard to say. And then it's also good against like Branded. In case they Branded in red, I've seen a couple builds running that, or they Sanctifier. Here's something that was interesting. There was a Voiceless deck running Sanctifier with Jowgen and the Branded stuff, and you were stealing game ones because most people were just dropping Imperms on whatever, and if they didn't have Imperm in their hand, you just stole the game. So being able to DD Crow the Jowgen away, or the Gimmick Puppet. I know a lot of people are still Gimmick Puppet locking, and that's you're a special type of deodorant non-wearing person if you do that. But hey, everyone knows how I feel about Branded. I think the deck just doesn't die, along with Tier, but we'll talk about that another time. Ghostwood, yeah, we'll put it, you're better off swearing. So I'd say towards the beginning of this format, when no one knew what they were doing with fire, I think this would have been a solid side deck option. Maybe if you're worried about time and your deck can really grind, but a lot of Snake Eyes players seemed like they were going to time at times, but it's very hard to say, because once you get towards those upper tables and you're playing against mirrors, it's going to go fast. Somebody's going to scoop fast, or you're going to go through your combo fast. And I feel like if you're like in the beginning of the day, yeah, this is pretty situational, maybe side deck, but I think you're better off swearing on cam and taking a chance that they won't catch you saying any type of swear word on the camera. But overall, I think once you get into those higher end tables, I think this card is just and a Flu's starting to find its way back in the format a little bit. So with that being said, we'll see. We'll see. Ghost Spell, definitely a solid side deck. Put it above Crow. So it hits your lab matchup. It can hit your Brandon matchup against Sanctifier. And it hits Fire Kings. You hit the Flame Burge. That's pretty nice. If they're bad and they don't chain block Oak, you can hit that, but most of the time it's chain block, so I wouldn't bank on that. But hitting that Flame Burge, wow, that's a play. That is a power play. Sometimes a lot of players do pass, or you just wait. The fire deck is a lot of waiting. It's like you have to really know the deck inside and out to see what's my opponent have, what player are they going for, what do they think I'm going to do to them. It's very choreographed, and you can tell there's only like 5 main lines, depending on what build you play. I shouldn't say that. It's very subjective, but overall, Belle, she gets the job done. She can hit the Princess, the Flame Burge. She's just great against Lab. I think solid side deck option. You just throw her in, and if you see another hand trap with her, you're cooking. I'm talking like you went to play Nouvelle, but without the Hungry Burger, baby. Anyway, sorry, that's my girl Belle. We'll move on. I'll digress here. Delta. So shout out Jesse Cotton. He won the UDS with this. I'll put it in situational. The reason I want to put it in situational, I think he realized there's going to be a lot of mirrors there. I think he probably looked at the OCG and said, hey, you know what? This is what they're doing. I'm going to do it. And those guys are smart. Oh, they're wicked smart. Like, I'd probably be playing the Blue Eyes structure deck right now if it wasn't for the OCG and me looking at what they're doing over there. But overall, I think Delta, it's good. The problem with it, you're adding in a brick. You're adding in a driver, and if you draw the driver, you're already down a card. You need to see more hand traps, and at that point, you'd rather just have something that you just could use, like a Belle or a Bestial in the side, or something other side-worthy card. But overall, I mean, it's not bad, especially if you throw in like 2 or 3 deltas and then a gamma, which we'll talk about. Put it right there in situational also, just because you are putting in the brick. Like, nobody, like, what do you do with this brick? You do nothing. You look at the driver in your hand, you're like, wow, like, why'd I get out of bed today? What made me like want to even like go to the card shop, and like you just draw the driver and you don't feel good about yourself. You'd rather just have something ready to rock and roll, like Belle or a Bestial. Like I said, it's just some solid side deck option to just let it rip. Anyways, I'll digress on that one too. Droll and Lockbird. Konami, look at me. Stop doing this to us. Stop giving us lingering effects. I think if everything was reactive, or you could react to anything in this game would be a lot better, a lot more fun. But I understand sometimes you need these necessary evils. So Droll and Lockbird. So I have very mixed feelings on it after watching YCS Vegas. I know a lot of builds only ran 1 for the crossout target, I'm guessing. If you draw it, it wasn't bad. But I'm just going to say must have. So it's still good in the Rogue. Now, a lot of players are going to look at the top decks and think, well, if they're playing 1 Crow or Droll, then it must not be that good. I think a lot of players are going to follow that, and then you're going to have like a lot of resurgence of decks that like to search a lot, like Mannadium or any combo deck. But I'll put it this way: Droll paired with like another hand trap like Bell, Ash, Crow, even. You pair this with another hand trap going against like Fire King or something, you cook them on that turn. Be careful though, because you could also run into a very rough problem if you draw like a Veiler Imperm and they summon the Ash. It's like, do you wait for the Droll, or do I Impermer Veiler the Ash? And it's a very rough call, because sometimes if you just Veiler Imperm the Ash, they just kind of like sit there. I mean, I feel like that's the correct Impermer Veiler there, but you also have to read your opponent. I mean, if you saw them activate Wanted, you might want to save your Imperm or Veiler for something else along the line, because they're going to have the extender through it anyways. So I think it's a must-have still. I know a lot of people are cutting it. It's just my personal opinion. So we'll definitely see. Nibiru. I listen, I played Salad when it first came out. When this card came out, it's like, I don't even know why I picked up Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck that day. It was like they were taking my milk money. There was nothing I could do about it. It was like that bully that just wouldn't go away. And Nibiru was this guy. Anyways, must have. You pair this with any hand trap against fire. Cooked. Hungry Burger. CR Hungry Burger. Cooked. That expensive cooked. That's what I'm talking about with Nib. But overall, you have to have this in your deck. Definitely a must have, in my opinion. And we'll just move on after that. Not a big Nib fan though. Ghost Ogre. Oh boy. I think it's situational. I think, you don't want to destroy the wrong thing in fire. There could be like some counterplay, as in like you can bait something out. You could probably hit the Fire King Island, but if they have Sanctuary up and they have another fire in hand, you're just going to look really stupid. I just think it's very situational. Maybe you're better off swearing in some senses on a live stream for Konami, but overall, I just don't think this is card's time yet. Now, when the new Dragon stuff comes out, this is going to be very decent. This will be very decent. I can see this we can put in the side decks a lot, because you can hit, I think it's their field spell or something like that. So this will be decent here soon. So if you don't have copies of this, just make sure you have some on standby. For the next, Phantasma. Never been a fan of this card, but it helps you dig. I think it's situational. I think by the time they link off and you're able to use this and you draw into a hand trap, that might be a little bit too late, like a Veiler or Imperm or a Crow or a Bell. It's like wait, where do you... It does have targeting negation, I believe, but it's so situational. It's so niche. It's like I'm gonna die alone without a girlfriend. I'm already doing that, but anyways, it's very situational. I think by the time you already resolve this, it's like if you miss your window of opportunity, if you miss a lot, it's not overly well. Ghost Mourner. Oh, I think it's this card's time to shine. I think because Veiler and Imperm are good, you need that extra copy just to shut down Ash, a lot of stuff. Or not Ash, like whatever gets summoned. I think it's extra negate. I think you stop the Oak with this card most of the time. I got to try it in practice, but a lot of builds were using it for like the cross out, because I know Cash is running this because it gets under Shifter, and it's just a good card on pay. It's a great time card too. They're going to take damage. I mean, it's way better than this. It has more implications. The only downside is if you're playing against Flu, you can't use it because it has to be a special summon monster. That's like the really only downside. Outside that, this could stop a player like with there's only like 2 or 3 minutes left on the clock, and then they really have to think what's going on. How am I going to get around this without getting this off the board, taking damage? What do I do? And then just push on from there. But it could also be side deck worthy too. I will give it like a little bit of both worlds here. But overall, let it play, man. Let it play. Shifter, I think if you can play Shifter, this is the hand trap you want to play. So only like Cash, Birds, Exosister, if you're just like, hey, like I don't care about the format, I'll play what I like. Any deck that can play Shifter, even Sprite can play Shifter, and Pearly, if you can play this card, you play this card. Because this will turn skip. And I mean turn skip. Like, skip them so far that they're like 3 formats ahead where the deck doesn't even matter anymore. Just turn skip. Because they just don't do anything. You know, you can summon your Ash, get your Poplar, or you sit on your SP and then pray that they can't push through a board. But if they're dropping Shifter, most of the time it's Cash, but you might run across the board. They're just swinging over your stuff with like Fenrir, Unicorn, Ogre, or if it's Birds and you don't have anything for like the Rabina, or if they have Map and all you have is Ash, it just doesn't feel good. I mean, you're done. You're cooked. This is like Macro Rabbit. I know I'm a boomer. I'm like walking with my cane everywhere at events, but this is like Macro, like when it first came out. That card sucked. But yeah, if you can run this card, run it. It shuts down the meta. Granted, you're not going to see it all the time, but when you do, you're stealing games. Unless you're like me. And I did draw a lot in tier. Infinite Impermanence. Yeah, this is a must-have also. There we go. Yeah, Imperm's definitely a must-have. Doesn't play in the talents. That's the main purpose of it. You can set it in a zone with like an anti-spell fragrance, summon limit. You can literally turn skip a Snake Eyes player if they have no follow-up and you imperm the Ash and they don't have any bonfire. Now be careful. Witch is being played at 3 in a lot of these builds, so watch where you imperm. I think you should imperm the Ash. That's just me, but player preference at that point. Player preference. And this card is like probably the best hand trap to come out in forever. And finally, we'll move on to Veiler. I think this is a must-have also. I know it sucks that like if they do something, if any deck does anything in like standby or anything, yeah, you can't use it, but the Snake Eyes decks and the Fire King decks, they go straight into main phase unless they're activating Wanted and Draw just to play around the Droll if players are still on Droll. But overall, it just kind of like shuts them down. Same thing with Imperm, you know, hit the Ash at the right time, make sure they don't have a Witch in hand, or, you know, you just don't want to be looking stupid at that point. They make sure they don't have an extender, but even then, it's very, very hard for them to extend through that. Yeah, that's it for the tier list. I know it was a lot of Fire King, a lot of this and that there. I think we're definitely in a hand trap format. You just got to pair a lot of them together. You go all board breakers, get lucky. Overall, I just think this is better interaction. I think it just gives you a better insight as a player. So, like I said, please like and subscribe, guys. Don't swear on stream. Don't disrespect your opponents. Be nice, and if they put a card in a certain zone, don't put in the Anima zone. Please don't be that guy. I understand nobody wants to lose to Yubel until it actually gets good, but anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Comment if we should cover like what I think after events. Have like a small discussion. Maybe bring on some guest people, and we can discuss like, hey, why did we think this happened at this event? Why do we think players think in this way? And we're going to start making this channel a little bit more interesting. Thank you guys so much, though. I appreciate every one of you.